Well, hello, friends. Mark Holmes here with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo and Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to thank you guys for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, it's not working without you guys. So let's get open for business here. And let's wake up the football gods. Wake up here, guys. We're talking this morning about
Uh, Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs?
Yeah, we're talking about playoffs briefly because we've got three playoff games today, first time ever. Three playoff games tomorrow as well. This is the beginning of the new format where we're adding two teams and only one team that gets a bye week on our way to the Super Bowl. And I know as Cowboy fans, it's like we ain't in it, so we don't give a rat's ass. So I get that. I understand. But tonight we will be live streaming during the Washington football team versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because, well, it's still the NFC East, and we'll see how long it's going to be before the Washington football team fans are joining us on the couch. But by now, you all know that the Dallas Cowboys yesterday went to Mike Nolan and said,
You're fired! You're fired! Whoa! You're fired!
wow, along with Jim Tomsula. So those guys are out. And before the seat even got cold, they have already started the search for the defensive coordinator. Now, last night on my live stream, check it out. I had my man DMV Dallas Cowboys. We're beginning to start looking at some of the prospects that the Cowboys may want to draft and why. I'm not going to go into Kyle Pitts because he's a tight end. I mean, he's going to be a great player and all that. But DMV, don't make me fire you too. But I need some defensive players and I need some offensive line. But we'll deal with that as we go through. But the Cowboys have already started their interviewing process for defensive coordinator, starting with Joe Whitt. I hope I pronounced his last name, Jr., Whitt, who has a relationship, of course, with Mike McCarthy. So this tells me a couple of things. Okay, first thing, his last gig, of course, was with the Atlanta Falcons for 1 year as secondary coach and passing game coordinator. Passing game coordinator. Ah, okay. So he's the one, like our man Chris Richard, passing game coordinator. He's got a nice long history and stuff, and we'll go into the history in a bit. But one of those stops, of course, was with the Green Bay Packers as cornerbacks coach and defensive quality coach. So from 2008 to 2017, he worked, of course, with Mike McCarthy. So this tells me a couple of things. One, that Mike McCarthy is still the guy in charge here, okay? I was thinking because of what kind of happened last year. When you're going for a job, you go for a job interview, you're going to make yourself look as good as possible. You may exaggerate a little bit. You may tell the people what they want to hear. So they look and say, man, I was just blown away by this guy. He's the guy for us. We were told that he's done all the studying. He created his own analytics company and things and literally spent every waking moment that his wife said, let me miss you, study and film and everything, and knew everything about the Dallas Cowboys and everything about calling down and distance and situational and everything else, this, that, and the other. But we saw there was quite a few cracks in that armor. But also, too, when you get a job and you've got to hire other people, you're going to go to people that you know. And that's not always the best person for the job. It's because I got a relationship with them. Let me hook my buddy up. And so you looked at some of the relationships that he had, and Mike Nolan was one of those ones. Mike Nolan hired him. So let me return the favor to Mike Nolan. I'm not saying Mike Nolan's a bad coach. It's just that I think circumstances just made it really hard. That Mike Nolan had a different vision for the defense and wanted to do things that there just was not enough time or personnel to do. I don't think that coaches all of a sudden just lose knowing how to coach in 1 year. You know what I'm saying? Coaches get fired and all of a sudden, like Andy Reid, for example. and with Philadelphia, he got kind of stale there. They looked at it and said, it's time to move on. He goes to Kansas City and he builds a juggernaut. It wasn't that he learned that, forgot how to coach in with the Eagles. It was just that it was time to get somebody else to get the attention of the players to change philosophies and do things differently. And typically, you have about a 5-year window where if you do not grab the team and become really successful, you're going to lose the players. And that's the case more times than not. And after a while, even if you win the Super Bowl, you can get stale. Players get old. You try and hold on to those guys maybe too long and so forth. So by bringing in Joe Whitt, a guy who worked under Mike McCarthy for 10 years, familiarity, direct contact, a guy that he knows well, and bringing him in for an interview. We don't have any word on what happened with the interview, and I'm sure it's not going to be the only, well, maybe it's not going to be the only one. I don't know. But I'm happy that the Cowboys are working quickly on getting this. So a little background here. His first coaching stop was with the Atlanta Falcons, assistant defensive back coach. Then he was hired by the Green Bay Packers as defensive quality control coach. Then became cornerbacks coach from 2009 to 2017. And Lord knows, we need some help with the D-backs, And so he coached guys like Al Harris. And then became, in 2018, his last year with Mike McCarthy with the Packers, defensive game passing coordinator, moved on to secondary and passing coordinator for the Cleveland Browns for 1 year, and then was last working with the Atlanta Falcons. So he hasn't been out of football. He's been constantly, through the system. He knows defense as well, but this would be his first time as defensive coordinator if he is hired. Now, I'm assuming that the Dallas Cowboys will go through and do this process with a lot of the different coaches and things. Marvin Lewis was one that we talked about last night because of Marvin Lewis coming in for an interview for head coaching job yesterday. But here's the thing with Marvin Lewis. That may not work because Marvin Lewis is going to be interviewing with the Lions for head coach. So, do you want to be the head coach of the Lions or you want to be defensive coordinator for the Cowboys? Being a head coach and going backwards, you don't really want to do, even though the Lions may not be that attractive of a job. But he's used to working with teams that are cheapskates, so it might work out well for the Lions. So that may not be a possibility. The popular vote, of course, is Wade Phillips. A lot of people want to bring in 73-year-old Wade Phillips, bring him back and stuff. Of course, he's got a relationship with the Cowboys. He's currently unemployed. Might not be a bad idea. My thing is, and I'm not trying to get on people's ages because I'm old too. He's only 18 years older than I am. But, I'd like somebody younger. And here's where Joe Whitt is only 42 years old, I believe. Yeah, he's a baby compared to me. A little more background on him. After the majority of the defensive coaching staff was fired after a disappointing 2008 season. That sound familiar? He was one of the only 2 defensive coaches retained by the Packers. It was initially announced that the Packers had promoted their defensive quality control to cornerbacks coach in 2009. The Packers went 11-5 and made the wild card. So that's hope for us. That's hope for us, at least. They would go on to lose Arizona Cardinals 45-51. I guess the D-backs didn't do that well in that game. Under his coaching, Charles Woodson made the Pro Bowl and named first-team All-Pro and was named NFL Defensive Player of the Year, as well as 2-time NFC Defensive Player of the Week and 3-time NFC Defensive Player of the Month. In 2010, the Packers signed quarterback Sam Shields as an undrafted free agent. The Packers would go 10-6 and make the wild card again in 2010, making the playoffs for the second year in a row. And they would go on to beat Michael Vick's Philadelphia Eagles, Matt Ryan's Atlanta Falcons, as well as Chicago Bears, and make it to the Super Bowl. They would beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 31-25. That was in Dallas. I remember that game because I was there. That was when it snowed and ice storm and all that stuff. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was literally like they brought, the frozen tundra to Dallas, which it's unheard of. But anyway, I digress. So he was part of the turnaround of the defense of the Green Bay Packers. Again, we'll see what comes of it. We'll see if there's other people, but I'm glad that the Cowboys aren't waiting, that they're literally going for this right now. And you got to think, with him having a relationship with Mike McCarthy and a comfort, he might have an inside track. All right, y'all. We're going to keep our ears, not ears to the grindstone. How's that saying go? Ears to the train track. I know if you put your head to the train tracks, you can hear it humming when the train's coming. It's not nose to the ground. What do you keep to the grindstone besides a knife? I don't know what it is, but you know what I'm talking about. We're going to be listening and looking out for shit to see what happens with the Dallas Cowboys. So, hopefully, this is the first you've heard about it on the YouTube. I'm Mark Holmes, and I'll catch you later. Peace.